Allow me just to introduce myself to you. My name is Luay Shaban, Business Development Manager, Editor-in-Chief of Robban Assafina, the leading Middle Eastern media platform, specialized shipping, ships, offshore, and marine technology magazine, website, and smartphones application. Today, we feel great pleasure with the launching of our second webinar, Middle East Maritime Online Forum, the Maritime Distance Learning, Reality and Challenges, which is set to present the advantages, disadvantages, and challenges of the new digitalized academic era the maritime industry is preparing and embracing. Set to present the expertise of worldwide and regional maritime education leaders and experts, speakers which shed the light on new training model and methodologies, technologies and innovations serving this sector, in addition to the maritime educational sector's compatibility with the health and hygienic requirements, possibility of smart academies combination, looking over the sector's position from investing in advanced technologies. First of all, we would like to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar, Maritime Distance Learning, Reality and Challenges. The one on behalf of our webinar will shed the light on the importance of the trend of distance learning education technology in maritime academies and institutions in the region as a result of the corona pandemic. Key points at the webinar will discuss changing the traditional methods of education and its ability to cover all material fields, as well as the readiness of academic institutions for the technology in terms of infrastructure, education, instructors, and students. Is there a possibility of STCW certification via VR and AR technologies? Will distance learning help build seafarers with the same competency level? These questions and more will be discussed during the webinar as a part of the debate on the impact of technology in the maritime industry and its potential as an important factor in attracting you more toward working in this field. So basically, our speakers will shed the light on the following issues: the importance of implementation of distance learning and education technology in maritime academies and institutions in the region as a result of the corona pandemic, changing the traditional methods of education and its coverage of all maritime fields, the readiness of academic institutions for the technology in terms of infrastructure, education, and instructors, readiness of students for this new educational future. Will we see in the future the renewal of STCW certificates via VR and AR? The impact of technology on the maritime industry and its potential as an important factor in attracting more youth towards working in this field. And finally, will distance learning produce seafarers with the same competency level? For today, special thanks to today's webinar for our speakers for their vital contribution. And Raja branch to joining with Maritime University, Dr. Ndumbia Henry held various senior positions at the International Labour Organization, another specialized agency of the United Nations. During her tenure as director of the International Labour Standards Department, first woman director since the establishment of the ILO in 1919, Dr. Ndumbia Henry was responsible for the ILO International Labour Standards Policy and for the ILO supervisory bodies and procedures governing international labor standards. She led the department to effectively assist the ILO member states on the implementation of the international obligations, more than 400 conventions and recommendations, including through technical assistance, advice, research, and capacity building programs. She spearheaded the development of the innovative and historic ILO Maritime Labour Convention, MLC 2006, which consolidated 68 international labor instruments. The MLC 2006, as amended, has been ratified to date by 93 member states, to date covering more than 80% of the world tonnage of ships. Dr. Ndumbia Henry also led the ILO participation in a number of ILO interagency collaborations on several issues of common interest, including the joint IMO-ILO ad HOC expert working groups on fair treatment of seafarers and on liability and compensation regarding claims for death, personal injury, and abandonment of seafarers. Dr. Ndumbia Henry began her career at the University of the West Indies, Barbados, as lecturer in law, and later worked at the Iran-US Claims Tribunal in The Hague, the Netherlands, and the World Bank. Dr. Ndumbia Henry has dual Dominican and Swiss nationality. Her qualifications include barrister at law and solicitor, a PhD and LLM from the University of Geneva, and ALLM and LLB from the University of West Indies. She has published extensively on a wide range of international law subjects. Dr. Ndumbia Henry is fluent in English, French, and Spanish. Dr. Ndumbia Henry, please, we are ready just to hear you. Dr. Cleopatra. Excuse us for 1 minute, just for Dr. Cleopatra just to start.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we are reading here. Thank you.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much, and thank you for this introduction. Let me, distinguished panel members, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me indeed great pleasure to be part of this Maritime Distance Learning Reality and Challenges webinar. And rather than say everyone's name, I just recognize and acknowledge all of you attending, all of the speakers and those of you attending this webinar. Let me thank the organizers for hosting the event and for inviting me to be part of this very important occasion. My participation builds on my visit of just over a year ago to Beirut, where I took part in the East Med Maritime Conference. The world certainly has changed. It has changed dramatically within the last 6 months. Indeed, what we would have considered as routine travel for work today, or for study, or for leisure, has now all turned into an impossibility, or let us say a challenging endeavor for many of us in this COVID-19 era. Social distancing, the wearing of masks or visors, the constant use of hand sanitizers, quarantining and lockdown has now, all of us have now redefined our relationship with mobility and with transport. Luckily, the modern means of communication have enabled us to transfer our activities online. And in particular, this very webinar is a reflection of how quickly we have adapted to changing circumstances. Let me begin by talking about our online distance learning program. But before I do so, I just want to give a little bit about what WMU is. The World Maritime University, WMU, was established in 1983 by the International Maritime Organization, United Nations specialized agency. It established a university for the maritime and indeed for the academies worldwide as a center of excellence in maritime studies and research. Of course, we have added over time the importance of ocean studies as well. This speaks to the importance of the role of WMU as a model for maritime education and training around the world. In order for us to inspire leadership and innovation for a sustainable maritime and oceans future, we at WMU, we have the responsibility of instilling in our students a sense of purpose, a clear understanding of the importance of maritime policy and governance, and an appreciation of the need for all of us to collaborate on a global basis, and certainly to do so under a common framework. For almost 4 decades of its existence, WMU has been a traditional institution of higher studies, offering resident programs at the master's level since 2002, and since it was established in 1983, and since 2002 at the PhD level. WMU offers 7 specializations at its Malmo headquarters and 2 specializations in China. In 2005, WMU opened its Dalian and Shanghai branches, and over the last 10 to 15 years, all our resident programs have been seen a gradual digitalization, and even if you would call a digitization of study materials and assessments, but the physical lecturing does continue to remain its main feature. The first move towards distance learning by WMU occurred in 2005 with the inauguration of our first postgraduate diploma program in marine insurance. This postgraduate diploma program has now been running for several years in close collaboration, in the first place, with the London-based Lloyd's Maritime Academy. The postgraduate diploma in marine insurance is a complete distance learning solution with most study materials made available on a web platform that students and tutors can access. During any given academic year, we have 1 or 2 seminars that are held in London in the framework of this program. In 2019, the program was taken over completely by WMU, so we now do a standalone program on marine insurance. In 2020, the program was comprehensively updated and revised. And thanks to an MOU signed in March 2020, the program now benefits from the direct support of the International Union of Marine Insurance, the world's leading marine insurance industry association. An intense phase for the expansion of WMU's distance learning capability took place between 2014 and 2016 with the establishment of several programs in partnership with renowned maritime institutions. We now have a postgraduate diploma in executive maritime management, which is established in partnership with DNVGL. The Maritime Energy Postgraduate Diploma Program, which was initially run in partnership with Lloyd's Maritime Academy, but now is completely run alone by WMU since 2018. The Masters of Law and the Postgraduate Diploma in International Maritime Law, these are delivered in partnership with Lloyd's Maritime Academy. And finally, we have a Postgraduate Diploma in Maritime Safety and Security, which is run in conjunction with DNVGL. Importantly, in addition to these programs that I have just referred to, our maritime welfare, we call it MaryWell Professional Development Program, was created in partnership by WMU and the ITF, International Transport Workers Federation, Seafarers Trust. MaryWell is the first program of its kind to deliver a comprehensive overview of the topics and issues that relate to seafarers' welfare. What I can say today is that this is a very important, and it is so timely that we had developed this particular program, because with COVID-19 and the impact on seafarers, it's become an effective tool to help address seafarers' welfare, well-being, and help them with the situations that they still continue to face despite the loosening by some countries, allowing them to disembark and to be able to be repatriated back to their home countries after so many months at sea, well exceeding the time that they were required to be on board. But coming back to our distance learning programs, these, I would say, have been highly successful. They target subjects and they offer qualifications at the cutting edge of maritime business, science, and as well as technology. Moreover, our distance learning programs benefit from the recognition and the support of leading industry partners. For instance, our Maritime Energy Postgraduate Diploma Program has been endorsed by Wärtsilä, a major company, maritime company, been very focused on technology, Finland, and Setena in Italy. Over the last few years, WMU has witnessed a gradual building of its autonomy and self-reliance in handling of the technology side in its distance learning programs. And this has meant that our ability to develop our own comprehensive electronic learning platforms and the solutions have increased. And this is good news for us. An important element has been the alignment of the standards of our distance learning program with our traditional resident program. In several respects, our academic rules have been expanded, and sometimes we have had to rewrite them in order to ensure the full coverage of our distance learning programs, ensuring, very importantly, a level playing field across the range of our educational offerings. It also provides an opportunity for our students to progress to other components of our WMU academic program, from the postgraduate program, of course, to the master's program, and why not to the PhD if possible. However, like any institution, we have important challenges. In order to rise to the demands of distance learning, WMU has had to acquire and to hone in new skills, not just on the IT side of things, but also with respect to its lectures and its lecturers who might not have been used to this important mode today of delivery, indispensable mode of delivery in COVID times. Another challenge has been the perceived invisibility of our distance learning students, who may never get a chance nor need to visit the WMU campus for the duration of their studies. Distance learning today is extremely important. Our students require and they deserve the same or even more attention as our resident students enjoy. For example, their access to our library and student welfare facilities needs to be taken into consideration and to be made a priority so that they too can make the most of their experience. I'm working very hard on this component. The topic of maritime distance learning has been tackled by some scholars in the last few years. There are three main issues that arise: the issue of learners, of teachers and the very curriculum itself. If I begin with the issue of learners, distance learning and learners, this aspect is related to the ability of learners to regulate their own activities and to ensure their perseverance in the online learning contexts. According to research findings, learners' self-regulation is influenced by a number of factors, such as the quality of the instructional design and the assessment activities, the proactive attitude of the faculty members themselves, and of course, the learner's own individual profiles. Turning to the second element, distance learning in teachers. The digital competence of teachers plays a crucial role in online educational environments. Teachers are expected to efficiently use technological tools as well as the devices that come with it. Teachers should also rethink their teaching practices. Furthermore, there should be a reinforcement of the collaboration between faculty, information and communication technology coordinators, as well as management teams. All of these must come together. This highlights the need for in-service professional development and education. And thirdly, distance learning and curriculum. The success and the impact of distance education is associated with proper course outcomes. And this has to be aligned with the teaching modes and, of course, importantly, the validity and the nature of the assessments to be undertaken. The above three concerns that we may have are particularly important in maritime education and training, bearing in mind the special characteristics of learners and teachers and the certification requirements for safety, security, and environmental protection. It is proven today that there is a continuing need to improve the educational standards of seafarers. And with COVID-19, suddenly we've got to rethink this very carefully. And to expand, of course, the access to educational programs at all levels, including the postgraduate and doctoral studies levels, as well as professional development courses. This is the sort of more broader democratic sort of learning processes, bearing in mind the increasing number of legal requirements of the STCW Convention and other relevant instruments. It could also be said that the educational system of maritime institutions need to be reshaped to meet the challenges of the information society, the technological changes that are taking place in industry, and the increasing number of part-time students combining work with study. That is really critically important today. Given the lack of detailed standards in the field of maritime distance learning, there is a risk, of course, that seafarers and students end up being exposed to commercial educational products, which may be of poor quality and misaligned to national educational requirements. We've got to be cautious and careful about this dimension. I would also like to touch on the provisions, very importantly, of the STCW Convention on the topic of distance learning and electronic certificates. In Part B of the STCW Convention, containing, and if I read in quotes, the recommended guidance regarding provisions of the STCW Convention and its annex, and particularly Section B.1.6, which is titled Guidance Regarding Training and Assessment, the following principles are set out. First, distance learning and e-learning are specifically allowed but they should be authorized by a state party to the STCW convention. So that country should have ratified the STCW. Second, distance learning and e-learning should comply with the standards of training and assessment that are set forth in the other parts of the convention. Namely, just one example, section A16 of the STCW code. And thirdly, in approving a distance learning and e-learning program, the state party to the STCW convention should ensure that it is suitable for the selected objectives and the training tasks in order to meet the competence levels for the subject required. Companies, thirdly, should ensure that a safe learning environment is provided and that there has been sufficient time provided to enable the trainee to study. That's very important. Without this company time, it's very difficult for the trainees. And fourthly, each party should ensure that the approved assessment procedures are provided for any distance learning or e-learning program in line with the STCW code, and again, one of the relevant provisions. I should add that the ability to deliver certificates of competency electronically will be fully recognized in the STCW convention if the amendments that are currently tabled and were tabled to be discussed in February and relating to the developments of the amendments of the STCW convention and the code for the use of electronic certificates and documents for seafarers. This, of course, has now been put on hold, but I am sure IMO will soon be getting back to that as soon as business as usual can be resumed, even if via remote, through the remote media like we are using today, or any other format, or the mode of delivery by relevant organizations and institutions. But a draft set of guidelines on the use of electronic certificates and the documents for seafarers have already been put forward for adoption. So we are looking to see when this will be taken forward next. I also wish to draw your attention to the IMO guidelines for the use of electronic certificates, which paved the way for the opening up of the use of electronic certificates at port calls. This is now more than ever necessary in light of COVID-19. So far, a number of countries have communicated their use of the recognition of electronic certificates. So realizing that the situation today is making it even more urgent than ever before. This is certainly going to be a trend to watch very carefully in the future. And finally, let me just say a few words again about COVID-19, although I have referred to it once in a while. COVID-19 pandemic has had a direct impact on the educational programs around the world, and WMU is no exception. Significantly, it has opened up distance learning for our traditional resident programs. We've had no other choice but to go online. So in line with the protocols relating to COVID-19, as early as early March, we decided to deliver all our lectures online, as well as our assessments, both in the MSc program and in the PhD programs. Indeed, this shift has been witnessed around the world as educational institutions are working feverishly now, as most academic years will begin in September or end of August, depending on the part of the world in which we live or the time zones in question. Indeed, this shift was witnessed around the world as all the educational institutions have worked to ensure the delivery of their courses, their programs, through virtual offerings online. And there we are now all living, like today, in this virtual world. But we can see each other, we can talk to each other, we can exchange views and get guidance from each other. I am able, therefore, to inform you that a survey that was conducted by our students in the weeks following the shift from physical to online lecturing, a wide-ranging satisfaction from our students was reflected in the survey undertaken, including with respect to the quality and the effectiveness of our new learning methods. I should add that because of COVID-19, our in-house Maritime English and Study Skills program was redesigned and offered also online to our incoming students who require English capability in line with academic standards. As we look ahead, the university is continuing to monitor the pandemic situation to determine closer to the start date of the academic year, as of September, the best way in which our resident programs will be opened up to the new student intake. We have contingency plans in place, and we are continuing to update them all the time. It may well be that the university will resort to a combination of both physical lecturing, because we'll have some students that can make it to Malmo, with social distancing, of course, measures in place, as well as distance learning modalities, taking into account the students who will not be able to transit and transfer depending on their countries of origin. Let me conclude, as I have been lengthy. I take this opportunity to stress the significant trajectory that WMU has taken over the last 37 years, even prior to COVID-19 pandemic, in building up its distance learning capabilities. Today, WMU is truly a center of maritime excellence for both its resident and distant learners, as well as for other stakeholders. We at WMU will continue to invest in distance learning, especially as we deal with the aftermath of COVID-19 crisis. I do believe that distance learning will help achieve the following and very important UN Sustainable Development Goals, something we should not forget because COVID is having such a nefarious impact on all of us. Those goals, if we drop that ball, we will be making a major mistake. And among those goals, the two ones that I want to highlight is Goal 4 and Goal 5. And Goal 4, as we are all educational, have all our educational institutions, the objective of Goal 5, of Goal 4, is to ensure inclusive and equitable education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And the second goal that I want to just highlight is Goal 5, achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. There is much room for progress. There is so much more we need to do. And also, we must not drop the balls on these two very important goals. Of course, there are many other goals, not to forget Goal 14, which is the goal that links maritime and oceans and covers all of the issues having to do with shipping, the sea, fishing, and all the other related activities. I have been long, but I want to thank you very, very much for the opportunity to talk to you on these issues, and particularly because the theme of our seminar or our conference by Zoom today is distance learning, reality and challenges. And I wanted to identify where I see some of this reality, what are some of the many challenges ahead. And now we are even more challenged because of COVID-19. But we must all stay the course. We must all keep the faith, and we must all pursue those goals and the very issues that this very important, what we call it, this important webinar will be doing for all of us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dumbia Henry, for this important and fruitful presentation. We really appreciate the time granted from your side just to participate in this webinar. I'm sure some of the participants will have a number of questions. Just bear with us till the end of the webinar. There will be around 20 minutes for Q&A. Feel free just to write them, and we will drop them later on in the last 20 minutes. So moving to our second speaker for today's webinar is Dr. Ahmed Youssef, Associate Dean of the Maritime Transport and Technology College, the Arab Academy for Science, Technology and Maritime Transport in Sharjah. Dr. Ahmed, PhD and Master Marine, has been an industry advancing asset to the maritime industry for over 2 decades. Dr. Youssef is currently offering up his expertise as Associate Dean of the Maritime Transport and Technology College for the Arab Academy for Science, Technology and Maritime Transport in Sharjah. Prior to holding his current position, Dr. Youssef leveraged his extensive industry knowledge to serve as the director of the International Forum for Maritime Transport as a specialized Maritime Business Development and Career Development Center at the ASMT from 2011 until 2019. Dr. Youssef also boasts international career experience in locations like the United States of America, where he worked as a visiting professor in marine transportation at Maritime Academy, EU, and Greece, where he was emphasizing the Arab Academy and its main role towards the development of maritime education and training. A passionate maritime professional, Dr. Youssef has actively pursued education as a means of self-development to bolster both his knowledge and contribution to the industry. His most recent accomplishment is obtaining a PhD in maritime technology from Liverpool John Moores University, UK. Other academic accolades includes a BS Bachelor of Maritime Transport, a postgraduate diploma in hydrographic surveying, a Master Marine COC, and a Master of Science in Total Quality Management and Productivity. Professionally referred, Dr. Youssef has fruitfully contributed to the maritime industry with a plethora of notable achievements. Dr. Youssef, we are all ears just to hear your presentation, please.
Thank you, Luay, for the presentation, and thank you for hosting this event. Actually, I'm presenting this presentation on behalf of Dr. Mohammed Dawood, the Vice President for Maritime Affairs of the Arab Academy, because unfortunately his mother-in-law just passed away this morning, so I'll do this presentation on his behalf.
Our best condolences for Dr. Mohammed as well.
Okay, so actually I started sharing the presentation. Just please let me know that if it's working now. Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, first of all, definitely this presentation goes in line with what had been presented by Professor Cleopatra. COVID-19 have changed the whole world, have changed the way we look at things, even at the academic career. In the Arab Academy, we used to consider distance learning, we used to consider online learning, but to be honest with you, we had not executed up to that level until we faced the challenge of the COVID-19. Once we faced the challenge of the COVID-19 and everybody started to count on the online learning for every aspect of our courses, I think that the maritime education and training later on after the COVID-19 era will change significantly, and it will align exactly with the change that will happen in the maritime industry. The fourth wave of the maritime industry, which is basically an IT-based one, it will be aligned totally with the maritime education and training, which used to be a bit behind such modernization. So I think that COVID-19 had pushed things a bit forward for the maritime education and training to go ahead in a much more deeper R&D projects to get this industry much more automated. So let me start by the common industrial revolutions that used to take place. The first industrial revolution, it was in the 18th century, which was steam-based machines. The second industrial revolution that took place between the 19th and the 20th century was basically an electrical energy one. Afterwards, the third industrial revolution, which was the computer and internet-based knowledge, and this is what we are living on in the moment, and this is the foundation upon which we are intending to build our future in the maritime education. The fourth revolution which we are living in, and it's based on artificial intelligence and the information technology. And this definitely have started in the 21st century, and this is considered to be the fourth industrial revolution or the second information revolution. Nowadays, the fourth industrial revolution talks mainly about many things. Definitely the simulation, the development of the simulations, the simulators. Everything has to be properly simulated. The autonomous robots, like the autonomous vessels, the drones, and any autonomous devices. The big data and the machine learning, how to analyze such big data to get proper decisions. Augmented reality and the intensive use of the clouds, and definitely the main thing that will secure the whole process and the whole fourth industrial revolution is the cyber security. Cyber security has to be properly considered in every aspect, because as what had been presented by Professor Cleopatra, that the intention is to issue an electronic COC. So that deserves definitely to look after the cybersecurity and to make sure that everyone working on board a vessel or even an undergraduate student is fully aware about what is the cybersecurity and what he's supposed to do and what he's supposed not to do in order to keep himself and his documentation safe. Okay, I think it hanging for a while. Okay. Well, the reflection of the fourth shipping revolution on shipping in the 18th century, it was mainly machinized power, and afterward in the 19th century, the mass production of the shipping industry based on a diesel machinery had been produced, and then since the 1970s, the computerized controls started to be considered, and afterwards, I remember during the 1990s, or maybe the late 1980s, we have started this one-man bridge projects and unmanned vessels, and later on, nowadays, we are talking about the autonomous vessels with the different levels of autonomy that might reach up to the full autonomous vessel. The shipping 4.0, which means the shipping during the fourth industrial revolution, is, as we can see, based on those topics. Definitely, it will never be limited to these topics, but this will present just the main ideas about the whole issue, which is the cybersecurity, the smart sensors, which is used to be all over the vessel since the unmanned ship, which exist the smart sensors since the late 80s or the early 1990s, and definitely it had been significantly updated during the current era. Incorporating these sensors with the big data and with artificial intelligence, definitely, and analyzing the data with machine learning, it has a much more better outcome that will provide the machinery or the device or the ship as a whole with much more independent manner and an independent, more logical decision making. And the augmented reality, which is combining the reality with the virtual one, I think it will. Can you hear me? I just wanted to make sure that everybody's hearing me.
Yes, some of the participants are saying that your voice is somehow
faded out.
If you can just approach, if you can approach the
Okay, the mic a bit much more closer. Okay. Okay.
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Great. Thank you. And definitely everything that we will talking about is going through the Internet of Things, which is now is driving every single aspect in our shipping industry. And the blockchain now is the new technology, the thing that I'm considering, and many specialized are considering that the blockchain will transform the whole shape of the industry, especially the documentation management side of the whole shipping industry. And that documentation side of the whole shipping industry will definitely include our certificates. And that's why it was a very good news that I have just heard now from Professor Cleopatra, that there is a new trend and there is an intention to start an electronic certificates of the COC. And I think if we will start using this based on a blockchain platform, I think this will be much more practical, and I think this will be much more secured from a cybersecurity perspective. So we can even issue a kind of a block certificates based on a blockchain certificate. This will strengthen the document, will give it much more security and much more distribution in definitely a decentralized manner as per the blockchain concept. This goes to the it might go to the STCW courses, and it might even go further beyond that. Later on, we will go to the cloud technology, which is now the much more practical thing, and it's even much more secure than having things on a drive. The drones, which had been used in supplying vessels, in firefighting, in rescuing men overboard, in maintenance, in painting, in surveillance, many things might go under the development of drones. So from what I have presented here, that the shipping era 4.0 is total new shape. It's kind of shipping 4.0. The whole shipping will be totally different than what we have used to see before. The impact of the technology on the maritime will be definitely reflected directly to smart ports in order to fit with the smart ships, smart shipping in general, in the way we manage our documents. Definitely the autonomous ship, which is the most popular term during the previous couple of years, but the whole technology impact will never be just reflected on the type of vessel. It will be reflected on the whole industry generally in the globe. And the maritime workforce. And this is the cornerstone of the presentation, and this is the cornerstone of our core, which is the Maritime Academy, is how to develop or to readapt the present graduates to adapt with the current technology, to adapt with working in the smart ports, in the smart vessels, to even work on board a kind of an autonomous vessel, or even control remotely a fully autonomous vessel. So this is the question that needs to be discussed in much more deeper manners. We have to be discussed from different point of views. The industry, the suppliers of the technology has to be deeply involved in this in order to figure out exactly what we are intending to do. Impact of technology in maritime workforce. The skills profile across the sector will alter as a new technology takes effect. The importance of STEM subjects will increase as jobs become more skilled, in need of a highly qualified personnel with the ability to create, operate, and maintain autonomous and technological systems. Old skills will not disappear, definitely, but new skills will be required. So the new skills will be an add-on to the previous and the traditional skills that we used to gain as a seafarers. Training, education, and continuous learning need to be a lifelong process, and simulators, virtual and augmented reality environments will be at the heart of the maritime training and will allow seafarers to continue learning while at sea, because the simulators will prepare you on shore. The virtual or the augmented reality will keep you in shape, will keep your continuous education on board the vessel, because definitely combining augmented reality with the maritime training on board will give the realism which is intended to be maintained by the simulators, but this can be maintained on board the ship in an interactive method on board, in the real, I mean, in the real workplace. I just need to double check if you guys are hearing me properly.
Yes, Doctor, we are hearing you very well.
Okay, thank you. We have different types of learning. We have a distance learning, online learning, and electronic learning. The distance learning is a method of study where teachers and students do not meet in classroom, but they use the internet, email, etc. And they might, and definitely it is based on using a specific learning management system. It is carried out by someone or something or something removed in space and time for online learning. It allows a variety of learners to experience connectivity, convenience, and interaction. It makes use of internet to connect students with educational materials as well as instructors and sometimes other students. And from a practical perspective, which I'm currently teaching in the summer course in the Arab Academy. In the Arab Academy here, we have started our online learning during the pandemic, and it made us much more closer to the students. It made things really much more better than online than the traditional learning in many aspects. So I think its pros are much more than its cons. The online learning that we have practiced in the Arab Academy during the pandemic time made us work in a much more flexible hours. It made things much more easier for the students. The students used to come to the professor to inquire or to discuss much more discussions regarding a certain topic during the working hours, which is maybe a burden on the students. But nowadays, the student can come and schedule the office hours. Sometimes we used to schedule it at the afternoon. So at that time, it's much more better. The student is much more relaxed, is more in a good mood to gain more information. So that made things much more easier. The electronic learning refers to the use of digital technologies to deliver complete learning programs. This form of learning is designed to create an online communication between the teacher and the students. The blended learning, which is the most convenient learning for the maritime education and training, in order to maintain our skills and the training skills as intended, is the blended learning. And during the online learning, whether it's an synchronized and or asynchronized learning, it can be maintained. Because blended learning will combine also the traditional learning methods, which is a classroom-based, and the distance online ones. Blended learning for seafarers definitely will make things much more easier. The seafarer doesn't have to fly to get his course or to get his certificates renewed. He can do this remotely. He can even do his in-house training, a huge part of his in-house training on board the vessel, instead of just consuming his holiday in getting trained. So I think there is much more privilege in blended learning. Even a kind of a augmented reality based onboard training can be conducted, and the Academy had already generated a kind of a prototype for this, and I think it just needs some more development and it will be ready to be used. Such kind of training will provide the training materials and the training course in an interactive method on board the vessel in the real workplace. And I think this might be an added value for the seafarer. The advantages and the disadvantages of distance learning. The main advantages of distance learning mainly is continuing education training without disruption, much more flexible, no limit for the time. The person can just synchronized learning. The person can get trained, can get his education whenever, regardless to the all over the clock. It's much more economically efficient, self-learning, so it will give much more independency and self-reliance to the individual or to the candidate. Learning while working, which is exactly the whole idea, is combining through which the person will combine the theoretical background with the practical skills, because he's learning while working. He's getting trained in the real workplace. Reach students in the remote areas, suitable for continuing education and lifelong education system. The main disadvantages of the online learning is the lack of social interaction and face-to-face communication, definitely with a percentage, but on the other hand, we might get some social interaction through our online meetings and the face-to-face communication. So this is a relative one, the lack of communication skills development for students. And the third point, which is the main challenge that we have faced and we are currently still facing, which is cheating prevention during online assessment. It's a bit complicated, even though if you are using a special program for examination that used to block the application and freezes the computer and force the computer mic and camera to be turned on, still the student can cheat by his tablet or by his iPad. So far, this issue has not been resolved yet for good in the community. So far, the only thing that you can do in the meanwhile to make sure that there is no cheating is to conduct a kind of a project-based examinations and to conduct an interviews with the students and to make it a kind of a one-on-one, which is very time-consuming to the student, and it has to be a kind of very much precise, structured interviews in order to make sure that it is even for all students and the assessment is fair for everyone. So the cheating prevention still one of the main challenges. Online instructors tend to focus on theory rather than practice. Somehow you present the practice in different methods, but this will never replace meeting face-to-face in a classroom and presenting the practical skills needed in a hands-on manner. The assessments are only knowledge-based and not practicality-based. Not all courses can be offered online, not visible to use if students doesn't have access to devices or internet. Definitely, during our previous semester, all courses had been conducted online except one course, which is workshops, marine engineering workshops, because definitely this has no other solution. And even the virtual programs that used to teach the students how to do sampling machinery parts had never been able to achieve it. That's why we had postponed this subject to the next semester. Hopefully, inshallah, we make things in the classroom. So definitely there is limitations for that. One of the advantages of the e-learning is managing learning in large groups, study at own place, and join face-to-face classes, reduce in cost, require fewer classrooms, fewer instructors. One of the disadvantages is the lack of motivation. Sometimes it exists, and we have seen this in our students, because the students, he's just living in his room. During the pandemic, the students are locked down in their home for like 2 months. So that caused a kind of demotivation for the student, but I'm not sure whether this kind of demotivation will exist during the time of the after pandemic. This will be questions. Learners need to have a basic knowledge of technology. I think this is one of the main challenges, but during our experience, the current generations, I think they have no problems with dealing with technology. Some of the professors might face such challenges, not the students. Plagiarism and credibility problem. Challenges facing maritime education training distance learning are technical challenges, like the limitation of computer and IT technology to some extent may hamper the using of distance education. Assessment in distance learning, which had been highlighted previously. quality assurance, monitoring of all the processes of distance education program to improve the accreditation standards, guideline and procedures for quality assurance regarding learning, faculty, students, scale, and access should be fully implemented. And finally, the competence standard, it is not suitable for all competencies, as some practical skills cannot learn and perform through distance education. Suitability of distance learning in math. The STCW Convention Manila in the code B16 recognized distance learning and e-learning, and definitely we were happy about that. Maybe at that time I expected to have much more explanation for that, much more standardization for that in a kind of a separate codes, but that didn't take place till now. Hiring highly experienced instructors to provide high quality and relatively inexpensive courses, provide more convenient learning conditions to meet the needs of the crew in different parts of the world, free to arrange time to learn. And in this partition, we're talking about not only the role of the academy, but I'm talking about the role of the academies in preparing, reshaping the people of the candidates. And in addition to that, I'm talking about the role of the companies to keeping their employees fit through conducting in-house training and continuous training for the employees working on board the vessel. For the rapid development of technology, many refresher courses can be delivered through distance learning to update seafarers' knowledge. Suitability of blended learning in math. STCW prohibits completely distance learning and e-learning with online examination and certification. And this is one of the disadvantages that we are facing in the STCW, that it's not coping so far with the modernization in the shipping. A combination of distance and classroom education, also known as blended learning approach, in line with STCW requirements. Blended learning can imply a distance course followed by an exam in a training center, as well as a distance course accompanied by a classroom and simulator practice, and followed by an exam in a training center. So this, so I think the blended learning will be even much more convenient for the future of the maritime education training. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for this important presentation. We appreciate your time. Now we move to our third speaker. Dr. Mahat Saeed Bawain is the Dean of International Maritime College of Oman, IMCO, since June 2020. He obtained his Bachelor in Civil Engineering, Sultan Qaboos University, Oman in 1998, his Master's in Environmental Engineering, Imperial College, UK in 2000, and PhD in Environmental Engineering, University of Alberta, Canada in 2007. His research interest covers several areas among environmental and process engineering and management. Dr. Bawain has led a number of major research projects and consultancy services during the last few years with background water and wastewater treatment, management, in modeling, and marine water quality. Dr. Bawain has 101 international journal papers, 73 international conferences, 45 technical reports, and several book chapters. Dr. Bawain served as the chair of International Association for Hydro-Environment Engineering and Research, Middle East and North Africa, collaborative committee from 2011 to 2016. He also served as the Director Center for Environmental Studies and Research at Sultan Qaboos University from February 2013 to February 2016. Please, Dr. Mahat, we are all ears for your presentation.
Thank you, Loy, and good afternoon to everybody. Actually, it's time for the closing remarks according to the agenda. So, so can I share the screen?
Yeah, yeah.
It's disabled on my end, actually.
Just 1 second. So please share your screen for now.
I'm trying to find it.
If you want, we can share it. Just 1 second.
Okay. That's fine. You have, I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad to be with you. Of course, the first two distinguished speakers have covered almost everything. So what I want to share with you is basically some few personal thoughts about this. I think I'm losing, the screen is not clear. You guys see the screen?
Yes, can you please share the screen from here, from your side? It seems there's a problem here.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
I don't know why it's asking for a password. Can you see the screen?
Just once. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Mm-hmm. So you're still working on solving the problem? Yeah. Okay. I think this is at your site. Hello. So can we move to the second slide?
Yes, doctor.
Can we move to second slide, please? Yes. So the presentation today that I want to give is quite short. I hope I can stick to the time that is allowed for me. I'll just take you quickly through some basic introduction about the normal cases and what we have in terms of challenges in the higher education, and what we call as emergency remote teaching, and then the quick move through the online distant learning, and then some requirements for proper online learning, and the way forward, at least from our side. So we go to the second, next slide, please. So for this domain, maritime logistics and even process engineering that we're having here, is of course, all of them are a mixture of theoretical and practical studies. And that's where the challenge comes most when we are talking about distance or online learning, because theoretical one that you can probably manage through online, but then it comes the practical studies that the students are supposed to be in physical appearance with the institution and the training sessions themselves. So this is the tricky part. However, as with many other educational types, on-campus teaching and training have historically dominates over any online or electronic techniques. The use of IT in most of the teaching activities was probably limited to few applications, mainly for uploading, downloading tasks to save something in terms of printing or to allow students to at least prepare earlier a little bit. But the full concept of the online learning wasn't there to the majority of the education institution. Of course, there were some specialized institutions focusing more on the online, and when this pandemic happened, those people were in a better situation to handle the work. But again, even their students were used to that type. The majority of the students are also used to the conventional teaching and learning methods. So the other problem is most of higher education authorities, like the ministry is responsible for approving and accrediting the degrees, most of them, they don't really put huge interest in the online learning before. So you would find a lot of challenges in accepting and accrediting certificates that are only taught through online systems. Of course, there are exceptions and there are systems that are working like that, but I'm talking again about the majority of the institutions and the authorities. Due to these things, there was little interest from academics in terms of either institutions or faculty in really deep online learning skills until this pandemic happened. So if we can go to the next slide. So then suddenly most people or most institutions found, I think it's the previous one. Yes, so suddenly the higher educational institution found themselves in front of this situation where no physical interaction is anymore allowed during the semester, which was the last semester. Sudden request to shift to online techniques. So without prior sort of trainings, there was no time for improving the IT infrastructure. So if there are no good coverages, that's it. You have to live with that and you have to find some sort of solution for that. There was no time for training both sides or both parties, the instructors and the student, to use the available tools, and also the choice of the proper online learning by itself, the platforms by itself, an issue. Which one should we go for? How to go for that? Any financial implications on it? So all this was sort of a dilemma that happened. And then also many issues have popped up, like the integrity, the quality of the delivered materials, the quantity that you can deliver in terms of course materials, the time-consuming process, because everybody is used to the physical teaching, and now they have to convert all these into a new system. And with that, how they can do the assessment and how can they receive the assessment issues, how can they communicate the results and the discussion, all that have become an issue, and it was like sort of a learning experience. We go next slide, please. So what happened actually in most institutions, at least from the side, the experience that I have gone through, was not really the well-known online learning. Most of us have shifted to something called emergency remote teaching, this ERT. So most of the efforts that have been done during last semester can be actually classified under this category. So the target was to finish the semester with the least damage to the students and the organization in terms of don't delay anybody. So students have to get as much as possible of the course materials. You need to take care of them. They need to do some kind of activity so that they can be assessed and hopefully pass and go on, especially that there were students at their last semesters and they need to graduate, all these kind of issues. So the learning process to everybody, I guess without exception, it was a great learning process to deal with the IT as a major issue. And also it was a good test to network coverage, because now you would get lots of complaints or lots of excuses from different parties to use, and they can blame the network either in reality or as just an excuse. So it was also a good test to the honesty and the patience of the staff and the students on handling this situation. It was again a good test for or to accepting new tools by everybody, the faculty, the students, and even the controlling authorities, the ministries who are looking after the educational process now, to realize that there is a need for accepting and appreciating and acknowledging the role of online teaching by seeing how this process is going on and how it can be improved. We go to the next slide, please. So going from that, there were lots of issues and lessons to be learned from, to be analyzed, to be studied, and we need to look further. So now when we look at this, the previous speakers have actually showed in details the real online or the distance learning. If you want to really design or offer the teaching and the learning process through online systems, the learning materials themselves have to be properly designed to convey the needed information to the student through these online platforms. The materials are supposed to be probably displayed and communicated using well-tested online platforms. So again, what are the ones that are can be used, and how much of them can be trusted, and how can we utilize them? In this case, that means you need to have proper interactions between students and instructors, and also should be established through the well-tested online platforms. And again, you need to do proper assessment tools to ensure honesty, integrity of the students for proper quality learning outcomes. So from that, we go to the next, which are the requirements for the online learning. Now here, for a proper successful system, online system, we need to have, first of all, a proper coverage of the networks and easy accessibility of students to the internet. And that is by itself in many regions around the world is not an easy thing. Probably it is somewhere in the world accessible, but many situations, this is a real challenge by itself. So how can you offer online learning when there is no internet anyway? And now that means improvement in the infrastructure has to be done. So again, providing trusted online platform that can ensure integrity and honesty of providing online learning and assessment within the institution, so that you can see and control the process itself, and everybody is logged in and can be monitored. So that is something that again is needed. Again, providing the instructors with the right number of online courses so that they themselves are ready to offer professional online learning. And again, also you need to do similar things to the students so that they can utilize the online services in the right and effective manner, so that they can interact with the learning process itself. I think my last slide here is what we have in the near future. And here we're looking at a short-term case where until now the pandemic seems uncontrollable, and it seems that we are continuing the efforts. So which is, in a way, it's of course bad for the whole world, but for forcing the institution or the academic and the educational institution to really invest more in this online learning experience and not just use it as a hit and run case, we probably need the first step during the next semester is to have some sort of blended learning process where we should put more focus on the online learning, and the integrity part probably can be looked at as something that we need to do on campus. So on-campus learning for foundation probably and first semester students to get them know the higher education system and the rules, the regulations, and the online learning for the theoretical parts of the courses for the other students, second year, third year, and so on. Then the on-campus training for practical sessions and the online assessment, but via on-campus facility. So, for example, major exams, midterms, or final, probably they should be done using the online system, but within the institution campus, instead of allowing them to do it from far distances and not getting the control about the integrity. This is as a short-term case, but on the long term, we need really to establish certain courses that could be offered entirely via using the online learning, and also establish the whole full-fledged system that produces the quality and the integrity and the right amount of skills to the students. I think that's all from my side. The next is just the thank you slide. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I hope the presentation was focused and to the point. Yes, Luay?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Professor, excuse me. We appreciate the time granted from your side for participation in this webinar, and we hope whenever this COVID-19 has ended, we will be able to meet with all of you just face to face, hopefully soon. So now we will move to our coming speaker, Engineer Man Mustafa Amin Massad, Manager, Business Development and Quality Management Department, Academy of Studies, Amman, Jordan. Mr. Engineer Man is a PhD candidate in business, master degree holder in marketing, excellent, bachelor in mechanical engineering, very good with honor, manager, business development and quality manager department, assessor for EFM, EFQM and King Abdullah awards, approved QMS auditor, member in different association in quality marketing engineering fields, consultant for initiating, implementing, maintaining, and following QMS, CMS, OHSAS systems, member and approved trainer, Arab Trainers Union, ATU, for several training courses in various fields such as mechanical engineering, marketing, quality business, and management fields. Engineer Man, we are all ears, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me share screen firstly. Okay. Hopefully it's clear for you.
Yes, we do see the screen. Thank you.
Okay, good. Firstly, I would like to thank Mr. Luay Shaban and the Robban Assafina team for this great opportunity and webinar. For sure, also for this invitation. Thank you also for all participants here for their interest. It is my pleasure also to meet you all. Special warmth to Dr. Cleopatra, and of course, she's welcomed again in Jordan and James. I need to go straight forward to the point because we are asking about distance learning. Okay. So, do you think that we have to thank Corona or not? This is a very good question, I think, because we have to discuss Corona or COVID-19 in different side or from another sides. Of course, figuratively, we have to thank COVID-19. For the last 20 years, education in general, and I think, just a second, please. Okay, I lost the slide because I'm trying to hide videos of participants. Okay, for the last 20 years, education in general and maritime education and training is not exceptional phased. Many changes of the learning and education methodology, including teaching aids and substituting technology in the field. So let's try to mention some figures because we think figures and numbers talk. First thing, the worldwide population of seafarers serving on the internationally trading merchant ships is estimated at 1,647,500 seafarers, of which 774,000 are officers and 873,500 are ratings. These numbers are from International Chamber of Shipping 2020. Also,
the KPIs were not communicated properly in the past. يعني they were not communicated properly. إذا كان في KPIs لكل department للأسف ما كان موجود.
So do we have to continue?
جهد بذل والحمد لله رب العالمين وإحنا سوينا نفس الصيغة مع الأسياد طبعا وهذا مطلوب علينا مفروض علينا مش شارع. لما جيت أنا أطلبهم مرة ثانية في السنة هذه ما يفترض أن كانوا KPIs.
Mr. Luaid, do we have to continue?
It was done correctly وبالطريقة الصحيحة وسمارت measures فما عندنا إشكالية. كان المفروض الHODs لما أنا سويت لهم communication يسووا مجرد copy paste.
Yeah,
إنه أصلاً
Okay. Yes. So I tried to find some figures or numbers about the maritime institutions and maritime learners, but unfortunately I could not find. Could you hear me clearly, please? Is it clear for you?
Yes, we are hearing you very well.
Yes, that's good. Okay. So I found this COVID-19's steering impact on global education as a global education, not about the maritime, but it was for 23rd of March 2020, 1.38 billion students were affected or impacted of COVID-19. The number reduced slightly to be 1 billion and 91 million for the 19th of June 2020. I think because many institutions started to face it by online and distance learning issues. So our new technology, we have to stress about something in the maritime. Firstly, the updated SSW stress that seafarers training aids shall include simulation training as the main requirement for maritime training. So some institutes used VR as an advanced technology for this purpose. Also, another institution started AR accordingly. COVID-19 forced many organizations to fasten the belt and hurry up with distance learning and different e-learning methods. Because of that, we tried to say thank you for COVID-19, not because this pandemic, because it tried to fasten the belt for some institutions to start using distance learning. Many institutions try to use distance learning in different techniques. So we have many techniques or methods we can face. As mentioned previously, we faced a lot of institutions that used distance learning, but in fact they did not use distance learning as known precisely. So some of them only changed the traditional classrooms to another virtual classes using the available applications such as Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and any others. Others went further to develop the learning material itself in order to enhance the courses to match with the new technology. And this is what we are looking for, of course. We believe that the new trend of distance learning and e-learning should cover all learning services components, infrastructure, staff and tutors, students and trainees, the overall organizational behavior. And we believe that the organizational behavior is one of the most important elements of this change. This is what JAMS has already done. However, we should point out that both national and international legislations represented by IMO should recognize and approve this type of education and training even after the Corona period. Distance learning has described the learning through distance, including two types: synchronous, which discuss providing the learning services in the meantime for students or trainees in different places, such as using video conferencing meeting applications. While the second type is asynchronous, as learning services can be done in different times regardless the place, such as using platforms, recorded lectures, assignments, reports, projects. And e-learning is defined as the method of using technology in learning service itself. So we can use e-learning and distance learning separately. And most of us, I think all of us, used to use e-learning easily. Most of us used classical technologies such as laptop, data show, and presentation simulators, and other. And here we have to say simulators as a classical e-learning, as it is mandatory by SW itself. The need now is to merge both distance learning in both sides, synchronous and asynchronous, and e-learning together. So the question is, are we ready for this change? Now, the readiness of this change. To implement this change on ground and apply the distance learning precisely, institutions have to have all of the following issues: a very well qualified, skilled, trained staff, including managerial and academic staff. We believe in the managerial staff as well the academic staff. It is known by intellectual resources. And here we have to focus on something, because we all facing the changing resistance for both lecturers and trainees together. The second thing is courses material and the new assessment tools built to match the outcomes. And here we have to mention the outcomes instead of output, because we are looking for extended results, not for the direct outputs of the courses. Infrastructure, and covering the technological side and financial resources, and strategic plans, and I prefer to use strategic directions because we are not talking about sudden changes only. We have to plan very well strategically for the next period to sustain the maritime education and learning services at home. And of course, the maritime administration and IMO legislation readiness.
Yes, Engineer Matt, I'm sorry just to for this. Yes. Just there is an echo with your while you're talking.
Okay, is it good now, or I have to change anything? Is it good?
Yeah, kind of. We will see, because some of the participants said that there's an echo with your voice.
Okay, I hope it's okay now.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Thank
you. Thank you. So JAMS, as one of the world's few institutions who certified for ISO 29993 standard by Lloyd's Register, ensured that all trainees courses comply with ISO 29993 as well as IMO model courses and SSW requirements. So we mentioned this ISO standard because it focused on the learning outcomes, including the learning services, starting from planning for the learning service and to the final step. This ISO standard, in addition to ISO 9001 and different D&B standards for specialized training, maritime institutions and simulator courses, make an added value for trainees to ensure that quality-oriented courses based on learning outcomes are well prepared and maintained for them. However, JAMS courses are prepared to meet both trainees and employers' needs, and this is what we call outcomes. JAMS works hard to improve the academic staff to meet the new trend and technology. Okay, we think it's required to use social spacing in this time. Accordingly, we believe that we have to reduce the distance in distance learning. Now, this situation as we think it's very or many organizations faced huge threats in these situations, and others can gain their opportunities. So Maritime Training Insights Database 2018 defined the below figures. 14% of trainees listed financial constraints as the main organizational training challenge. We are talking about maritime training. So the cost was the main element or the main constraint for training. Other one is location with 4% and the time with 4%. As you know, that maritime certificates usually have an expiry date. So trainees may list this constraints or may not, because they have to renew or to upgrade their certificates. It is not an optional issue. So these figures may reflect other or to be more bigger if we are talking about another training, not a specialized training such as the maritime one. So please do not forget the security in distance learning and online learning, because we think that many institutions forget the security as an main effect or main element in the e-learning and online learning. Just to get back for the opportunities, we are talking about another two risks of something like COVID-19, because we are talking about the risks of reopening and the changing ships staff, such as crewing. So we have to consider all of these issues. So the impact of distance learning, we think that distance learning may set the impact positively or negatively, but we believe that everything can be positively if we work hardly to set the proper controls and monitoring and inputs to get the needed outcomes. So one of the key indicators for distance learning is the learning evaluation, which shall reflect all learning service elements. The evaluation shall cover the following at minimum: learning material, including the electronic material availability and presentation, staff willingness and readiness, institution infrastructure, technical support for both learning sides, and of course, the new assessment tools, as mentioned previously from the respected speakers. So we have to rethink about the assessment tools. The assessment we prefer to be not as known previously with tests. So maybe we have to use more projects or assignments or something related to measure the knowledge and experience that get to meet with the learning outcomes finally. Of course, to control the assessment. It is very difficult to control this in online or distance learning issues, but we believe that there are available some tools such as Face ID and face detection, fingerprint, as mentioned by some of our participants here. Let me share you some figures in this feedback regarding the 4 months went distance learning feedback. We got the feedback from our students and trainees, and we found that we got 99.2% for quick response for COVID-19 and distance learning readiness, as we did not stop any learning service in JAMS. We started immediately as we were planned for this issues from 2019 at the end of it. Starting from December, we started for online and distance learning issues. Staff willingness and readiness, we got 99.5, and infrastructure and technical support for of both learning sides, and we provided 24/7 infrastructure and technical support for our tutors and academic staff, and also for our students. The learning material, as we planned to change our curriculums and materials previously, so we did it before the pandemic, and we changed everything to be available online. So we got 97.3%. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you everybody for listening, and wish you all safe and health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Man. We appreciate your time granted for this presentation. Moving ahead, now we would like to welcome Dr. Eliana Vistidula Barozzi, Manager, Course Leader and Industry Consultant at Lloyd's Maritime Academy, UK. I hope everyone is hearing me very well. So Dr. Eliana is a leader and industry consultant at Lloyd's Maritime Academy since 2014. Dr. Eliana is a legal and academic expert with an international background, specialized in shipping regulations and industry best practice. Highly experienced trainer, industry consultant, and law drafter in private practice with international exposure. Additional experience with an international ship classification society. Member of the Athens Bar Association, Greece, visiting lecturer at the postgraduate division of the American College of Greece. Author of 5 books with international publishers in her approach to maritime law and shipping policies. Dr. Eliana provides a global understanding of legal devices which take into account industry best practice and the human element. These are all years. Are not. Yes, can
now,
you try now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. First of all, my warm greetings to all. I'm based in Athens, and I'm very happy to be on this platform today. And I would like to thank the entire team of Robban Assafina for this invitation, and also extend my greetings to the numerous friends and new friends in this network today. And to tell you the truth, when I was preparing this brief presentation for today, I was thinking that we are clearly far away from the context where Greek philosopher Plato was teaching his students under an olive tree in Athens Academia. So here, this is the digital environment, but please allow me to say right from the outset that the focus is always on humans. And this point will characterize the presentation that I will be doing today, delivering today to you, with the topic assigned to me, are seafarers ready? How ready are they to accommodate the new learning environment? In my capacity as Lloyd's Maritime Academy course leader and industry consultant, I have seen hundreds of students, maritime professionals, seafarers, exploring the experience of distance learning, e-learning, and blended learning. And at Lloyd's Maritime Academy, there is a plethora of courses and programs, including in areas such as management, manning, operations, law, shipping business, ports, in the form of certificates, whose duration is 3 months, or as diplomas in collaboration with other institutions. And on this point, let me say that for most part, they are general awareness courses. And it is an exciting trip for me, an exciting experience for me to see seafarers and maritime professionals at large invest on their education, invest on their lifelong learning, and see how much they gain out of this process, so that they improve their skills, their knowledge, their chances of working better in this very demanding area, which is the shipping industry. Now, that said, let me also say that when it comes to seafarers, we need to understand a little bit their context. I'm not going to use a technical language. I'm going to use plain words to explain the situation that I see every day. And first of all, with the risk of stating the obvious, let me say that general awareness programs are traditionally contrasted with mandatory programs, like the ones set forth by STCW. And in the context that I am acquainted with, I mostly see seafarers that want to invest on their future as lifelong learners. Some of them are lifelong learners by conviction. Others, they seek to improve their career. Others, they seek the transition to a job ashore. It is rare to see maritime professionals ashore seeking to build a career at sea. From what I see, the most frequent pattern is to see seafarers at sea that wish, through distance learning and other tools, transit to jobs ashore. And distant learning is one of the tools given to them in the new. It has always been a tool, a significant tool used in this area, but now obviously with the pandemic, it has taken a different dimension. Now, against this background, I think it is important when we discuss the readiness or potential readiness of seafarers in the new context to see a little bit the challenges behind. And please allow me to say that in most cases, we see self-sponsored seafarers that are trying to cover themselves the gap between the employer, who is not always in a position to sponsor this type of education, and maritime or other opportunities. And one of the issues that we have is connectivity, especially if the seafarer is at sea. I have seen numerous and divergent practices concerning access of seafarer to internet while he's working or she's working at sea. So this has to do with access, quality of access, the cost of accessing internet while at sea. Also the question of freeing qualitative time. Obviously, life aboard is very demanding. They have their own way of approaching free time, and they clearly need to have qualitative time in order to benefit from good long distance education and e-learning. And if our seafarers undertake this experience ashore, there they will have to conciliate family life, personal life, and it is not always easy if the learning process is between repatriation and their next contract. Once again, with the risk of stating the obvious, they need to be familiar with, at least to some extent, with new technologies. And they also need to have the infrastructure. I don't take it for granted that all seafarers around the world have the infrastructure needed in that regard. So this is something that we need to consider. And another point has to do with the way the learning process, digital process is being conducted. We understand that in many cases, seafarers are lonely aboard the vessel, and we don't want this loneliness to accompany the new digital environment of their learning. So we really need to work on the nature of the learning so that we don't eliminate the human interaction. This is important. What is the aim? The aim, as I said, is to give seafarers technical skills, soft skills, confidence. This is also important, even though it is much more difficult in a purely digital environment. Some of the difficulties encountered during digital learning processes and the acquisition of very technical skills were mentioned by other speakers. So what can we do? We clearly have some actions whose feasibility needs to be examined in order to enhance seafarers' readiness to grasp opportunities in the digital learning environment in a practical manner. To name but a few, we need to enhance awareness about options and possibilities concerning virtual classes. I often receive emails or messages on LinkedIn asking me information about what they can do, what programs they should consider, what is the added value of this and that. They need more information about their options in the digital environment. We clearly need to work as an international shipping community on priorities concerning sponsorship opportunities, very important. I don't think that all seafarers were far from the situation where most seafarers can afford easily sponsoring their own studies, especially if this is self-awareness program, which in some cases might be considered regretfully as not being a priority. And also, I would say, above all, we need to maintain learning as an exciting experience, an experience where seafarer works on different levels of knowledge acquisition, but also give her the chance to improve other skills, like, as I said before, soft skills, boost confidence, and really approach other spheres, other areas of knowledge and competence. So learning process digitally through its multiple facets needs to give the opportunity to seafarers to become more knowledgeable, acquire more relevant and current skills, and become or stay sociable. So the question is that how can we make sure that the seafarer benefits from education as a social process where we integrate in the digital experience all forms of human interaction. At Lloyd's Maritime Academy, we offer different tools, including a discussion forum, the possibility to communicate directly with the tutor. I think that the focus placed on the human aspects is really critical for the success of digital learning. Now, I had started this brief presentation with a reference to Greek philosopher Plato. Now, please allow me, because I have another webinar right after this session, and unfortunately, I have to leave you at the scheduled time of completion of this webinar. Please allow me to finalize my words with the words of Plato's student. It was Aristotle who had said that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And this is to say that we always need to go beyond technology while using technology and take into account that we are dealing with humans, and humans have needs, including the need to communicate and improve themselves as technical, as professionals, obviously, but also improve their other aspects. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward to a fruitful interaction with all of you. I am at your disposal also through Robban Assafina team, as I have to leave the webinar now, and on LinkedIn or by email. Thank you so much. And good success with health to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Elena. We appreciate your time, and sorry if we kept you waiting for more.
No worries.
Thank you very much. We move ahead with our upcoming speaker, Captain Tamim Al-Imam, Head of Development and Planning, E-Learning Administrator Simulators Trainer and Assessor, Al-Balqa Applied University, Aqaba Maritime Education and Training Center. Diploma of Information Technology in 2001, along with MSc A+ and Network Plus courses in 2002. Bachelor degree in Maritime Transport 2009, COC Management Level 2 in 2012, served in several merchant ships for 10 years, lecturer in Al-Balqa Applied University and Aqaba Maritime Education and Training Center for Electronic Navigation and Advanced Navigation Systems since 2016. Head of Development and Planning since August 2018, certified to train simulator trainers, simulators, assigned as the e-learning administrator since March 2020, expert in simulators installation and maintenance. Captain Tamim, we are all ears for your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks for Robban Assafina for giving us this opportunity. Let me share my desktop.
Yes.
Can you see my PowerPoint, Mr. Loy?
Yeah, everything is clear.
Okay, actually, when we joined this webinar, I would like to share our experience in Aqaba Maritime Education and Training Center regarding e-learning and distance learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. During the lockdown in Jordan, we faced many challenges, and to avoid ceasing education in Amitech, there was many challenges, especially when we need to comply with STCW requirement and continue our plans at the same time. We all can see that education has changed, especially with the sudden rise of e-learning, where education now starts to become remotely using learning management system and video web conferencing tool. As work didn't stop during the coronavirus pandemic, education should not cease as well. It's not necessary, especially since there are tools such as video conferencing software that can ensure the continuity of the classes. Lecturers now can use the virtual classroom to teach from home with all necessary tools. And now, online training is just as effective as traditional ones and has even more some advantages. We used e-learning since 2017 in Amitech using Moodle platform, and we concluded the following advantages during our experience, such as retaining class materials for a long period of time, which allow the trainees to study at his own pace. We also saw that e-learning offered a highly effective learning environment and flexible scheduling. How did we respond to COVID-19? Many online learning platforms are now offering free access to their services, including platforms like Moodle. Also video web conferencing software, which allow a high quality visual communication between two or more participants, such as Microsoft Teams, Big Blue Bottom, which we chose to use as it has a high security level and apply the cybersecurity requirements. When combining the learning management system and the video web conferencing software, we get a great tool to move from traditional to distance learning. During the transition from traditional learning to e-learning and distance learning, we faced many challenges that needed to be solved, such as a technical issue. Some students without reliable internet access and/or technology to participate in digital learning. For example, we experienced this gap in our Maritime Training Center and tried to solve it by using asynchronous education, which is a method that allows the students to explore the course material and to watch the video recorded conference done previously when the internet is available. Also, the fear of change. Switching from traditional classroom to distance learning in a virtual classroom makes the learning experience different for students. The resistance to change doesn't allow them to adopt the online learning environment, whereas it takes time for them to get familiar to learning management system, LMS, and the methods of computer-based education. We also solve this issue by using educational, we solve this issue by using educational videos explaining to how to use our LMS and how to handle online materials. Also by explaining the benefits of e-learning and discuss with them about issues that may occur during the classroom and how to solve it. Also, we had an issue with time management. Time management is a difficult task for e-learner, as online courses require a lot of time and intensive work by the trainee and the instructors as well. We handled this issue by scheduling the time for our trainees, which would be a significant help for them. We could even set some reminders for their courses and assignments. Also, the lack of computer skills. Most of the students we face have a good knowledge of computer. Lack of computer skills, for sure, in this crisis is a major issue among students. Some of them cannot even operate basic programs and therefore are not able to handle their files. We solve this by conducting some basic courses, online courses in computer skills to enhance students' knowledge in the field. Also, difficulty to stay motivated when getting the online course. For many students, not having a classroom and set classroom times can make can make it a little bit difficult to remember to check in, or sometimes even to want to check in. It's important to complete the assignments and get them on time, just like with a more traditional classroom atmosphere. For those who don't have the self-motivation, these classes can result in retaking classes because failing to touch the assignment in time. We solve this issue also by using lesson activity module, which allows the instructor to choose to increase engagement and ensure understanding by including a variety of questions, such as multiple choices, matching, and short answers. Depending on the student's answer, students may progress to the next page or take him back to the previous page when failing to answer correctly to make sure that he got the outcomes needed. The major problem that we faced, simulator training under STCW. Actually, the only mandatory simulator training under STCW is the use of radar and IGDIS. So the simulator for training is needed to fulfill the training outcomes mentioned in IMO model courses 107, 108, and 127. And the existence of simulators inside the training center and the requirement for the instructor to control the simulator make it hard to allow the trainee to do the practical outcomes mentioned in IMO model courses for radar and IGDIS. We solve this issue by using a remote technology, which allows the trainee to have full access to our simulator, also considering the cybersecurity for protecting our system, and let him to practice all the outcomes needed for fulfilling the radar and IGDIS competencies under the supervision, for sure, the instructor, and with the control of Jordan Maritime Commission, which will monitor also all the activities in real time and debrief some outcomes or some mistakes for the trainees. Actually now, as you see in the picture, we have the control for the ship handling with the trainee. Also, he has full control for the IGDIS. We achieved this technology up to 6 trainees at the same time with the full control for the ship handling and monitor the controlling of the radar and IGDIS according to the conducted course. Can you hear me, Mr. Loy?
Yes, we hear you very well. Keep going.
Okay, now I will talk about the efficiency of e-learning and distance learning. Distance and e-learning fulfill most of the needs, actually. The online method of learning is best suited for everyone. This digital revolution has led to remarkable changes in how the content is accessed, consumed, discussed, and shared. Online educational courses can be taken by anyone at any time. Also, the ability to access course material and records at any time. Unlike classroom teaching, traditional classroom, with online learning, you can access the content unlimited number of times. This is especially required at the time of revision when, for example, preparing for an exam. In traditional method of learning, if you didn't attend the lecture, then you have to prepare for that topic on your own. In e-learning, you can attend the lecture whenever you want easily. Also, the updates for the course content. A prime benefit of e-learning is that it makes sure that you are in synchronization with modern learners. This enables the learner to access updated content wherever they want it. Also, more efficiency. It resulted in improved scores on certifications, tests, and also evaluations, and higher number of students who pass due to the more frequent assessment, which can reduce the distractions. Also, the enhanced ability to learn and implement the new process or knowledge at the workplace. Also, the main important and efficient in e-learning is help retaining the information for a long time on cloud. E-learning actually is highly eco-friendly way, as e-learning is a paperless way of learning. It protects the environment to a lot of extent. With e-learning, there's no need to cut trees for obtaining papers, for example, and less emission of CO2 also due to less facilities in service. Actually, now in Amitech, we use the learning management system as part of our quality management system. Documents also for electronic documentation, such as attendance list, trainees assessment, and training opinion survey for each course, and keep these documents in a cloud server and reduce the use of papers. Finally, when comparing e-learning with classroom-based learning, both are roughly equal for teaching knowledge. In fact, e-learning offers a little slight advantage. With blended learning, which is a combination of online and traditional learning, we get training outcomes better than applying each training alone. This gives us an opportunity to make a real training improvements and take maritime training to the next level. For example, simulators offer the opportunity to present scenarios to the trainee that could never be replicated in traditional training. Therefore, blended training, simulator hand-on training, together all provide the best skills training outcomes. That's why combining techniques is so powerful, better than either one alone. AR and VR in maritime education. Actually, I need to talk a little bit about AR, VR, and MR, also mixed reality. VR is a computer-generated 3D graphical representation of environment in which user will be immersed using HMD head-mounted display. Cannot see the real world when they are in VR, but augmented reality is an overlay of information on the real world. AR is a live direct through a transparent display, or indirect through live camera view of surrounding real world environment, enhanced and augmented for sure with computer generated information. Users are aware of what is going on the real world when they are using AR, unlike VR for sure. MR will merge both together. Benefits and challenges VR and AR. I think AR increases the knowledge and information, and also it is able to share experience with other people in real time over long distance, while VR makes education more easily and comfort by letting users experience an artificial environment. Both AR and VR application in training will allow professionals to conduct training in a virtual environment where they can improve upon their skills without making the operation goes wrong, and test the reality before the reality tests them. The disadvantage, actually, augmented reality is quite expensive and needs user experience, while VR becoming much more commonplace, but till now programmers are still stuck with how to interact with virtual environment. Both VR and AR needs an infrastructure with their trainee, such as head-mounted display and hands controller. That's why simulator will stay one step forward in distance learning, as you can train the student using the simulators easily. The future of training with AR and VR, we have seen that both VR and AR are similar in the goal of immersing the user, though both systems do this in different ways. I believe personally, both AR and VR will succeed in fulfilling the training requirements according to STCW in the near future. Both technologies are becoming cheaper and more widespread. We can expect to see many more uses for both technology in the future, and perhaps fundamental way in which we communicate and work, especially with the courses which need an infrastructure such as workshops and real equipment training. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Captain, for this fruitful presentation and for the time granted from your side. We reach our last two speakers from Barcelona, Engineer Nicola Della, Sales Expert Simulation Europe, and Engineer Kiran Kumar, Sales Expert Simulation Middle East and North of Africa. Engineer Nicola Della, former engineering officer with 12 years of seagoing experience, including chemical tankers, oil tankers, row ferries, high-speed boats, and cruise ships. Following his shipboard experience for the last 5 years, Nicola worked in European Training Center in the capacity of engineering instructor contributing to the professional development of cruise ships officers. Nicola hold a B and G in mechatronics, currently following a program in computer and electronics. Engineer, we are all ears for your presentation.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we are hearing you very well. Thank you.
Nice. Okay. So I will share my screen with your permission.
Okay, please do.
We have a short presentation for all of the guests this afternoon. Today, along with my colleague Kumar, Mr. Kumar Kiran, we are representing Varsila, and I'm currently speaking from Italy. And particularly, we are representing a division of Varsila called Varsila Voyage. So you see on the screen a little bit of introduction of our division. What do we do at Varsila Voyage? We transform how vessels perform their voyage by leveraging the latest digital technologies to deliver a step change in safety, efficiency, reliability, and emissions. At Varsila Voyage, we are committed to creating a smart marine ecosystem whereby every vessel can connect to with the broadest smart marine portfolio in the market. We are well positioned to lead the industry toward becoming digitally connected across the entire value chain and to be the first partner of choice when leveraging the latest digital technologies. So we want to present to the audience what we call our smart simulation. In short, what do we mean with this smart simulation is the use and enhanced and redesigned use of our simulation platform, which is what we think is the response and the solution to a rapidly changing digitized maritime industry, and of course to the next generation of maritime seafarers. We use a single platform for our solution. This is how we came into the market to help training institutes and universities of the difficulties that COVID-19 pandemic had introduced. So with this single platform, we offer a flexible solution. The reason why we say scalable and flexible solutions is because our platform is a platform that can be used either on physical installation ashore and used from trainees and students at maritime institute, training institutes or university, as well as it can be deployed and used on a cloud services. So the customer who owns or approaches our product does not have to change any software. The software that is installed physically on their premises is the exact same software that will be found on our cloud services. Of course, as all of the previous speakers have noted and introduced very well, I would say, the whole maritime training industry and in general, universities and education is moving towards a blended approach. With our cloud services, we don't intend to necessarily replace physical installation and face-to-face type of approach, teaching approach, but we intend to implement a blended learning. A blended learning will obviously introduce the opportunity for training institutes and maritime centers to expand their abilities in terms of volume, in terms of time, in terms of also teaching methods. It can also be used, obviously, as a standalone tool and as a complete transition to distance learning itself. So let me, briefly speak about our cloud simulation and what it looks like, what we can do with it. Our solution is provided through flexible cloud-based virtual machines. It means that our simulator sits on a server. It is remotely accessed from anywhere and from anyone. It has a free, flexible configuration. It can be used as a single performer or trainee or student. It can be used in a configuration of full class. It can be used in a configuration of a part task. It can be used in a configuration of a multi-class connected all together. So we offer a wide range of solutions and utilization of the tool. We also offer approaches in the sense that it can be led from instructors remotely, or it can be led from students themselves. So it can be a classroom environment, a virtual classroom environment itself, or it can be led from students alone on their own time at their own pace. That's what we think is one of our strengths with our solution. It also integrates with the existing learning management systems, or at least the major ones, where students and administrators can access material and services. Or it can be used as a standalone tool. We have a few pictures of our portfolio here. We offer the possibility to run navigational simulators or engineering simulators. On the screen, we display some functionalities that are associated with the bridge or navigational simulators, such as ACTIS, AES, and as well as 3D visualizations. And on the bottom, we can see and mention a few that are associated with our technological simulator. We offer the ability to train on engine room simulators, liquid cargo handling simulators, and crane simulators as well. Particularly, the previous solutions obviously are, can I call it, ready-to-use solutions, off-the-shelf solutions. We have already all existing tools and methodologies that the training institutes may need. Nevertheless, we also offer the possibility to customize our solutions for our customers. We have a couple of examples here that are very recent, where we have successfully delivered and implemented customized solution for big customers. Particularly relevant for these days is the utilization of LNG for propulsion of vessels, merchant vessels around the globe. And we've been able to accommodate the request of these two customers with custom-made solutions. So we are flexible in our approach. We offer ready to use solutions as well as customized solutions. From an architectural point of view, this is what we are able to offer when we talk about our. It can be a classroom environment that is accessed remotely from students, instructors, and administrators anytime, anywhere. And it could be also a system that integrates with existing learning management systems. We have successfully interfaced with the well-known and widely used learning management systems such as Canvas, Moodle, and Blackboard. And we have the abilities to interface to others upon request. Along with this service, obviously, we also offer our what we call our smart support, which is a 24/7 assistance to the cloud services. Traders are never left alone, are never faced with any major difficulty by themselves. There are some benefits in using our products. We offer, as we were saying earlier on, we are agnostic pretty much. We run on Windows, or OS, or Android. Our solution can be used on desktops, phones, iPads, anything you can possibly think of. We have ran so far a number of successful tests, demo, and implementations. It is a system that is easy to access, easy to use, and it's fully compatible with any existing installed physical installations. It is also worth to mention that these cloud services can be accessed from existing customers as well as new customers. It doesn't require necessarily the installation of a physical installation in your premises. You can access this service also without physical installation. There are some technical requirements, of course, which comes with the usage of this solution. In general terms, we need to have students, instructors, administrators who have a consistent internet connection. We are looking into a connection that is out 0.5 or to 1 mega speed broad. For 3D visualization, that requirement increases, obviously. And of course, we recommend window-based PCs with the keyboard and mouse to make sure that the trainees and students' experience is at its best. At this point, I will leave the word to my colleague Kiran Kumar, who will walk you through the rest of the presentation, and I will thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I'll just start sharing.
Yes.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Kiran. I am a colleague of Nicola, and I work from the Middle East office. I'm a sales expert in simulation and ship traffic control. So what you see here in front of us, what Nicola explained to you, is our cloud simulator, basically the NT Pro, which is the Navigational Trainer Pro. Most of the academies who are here, they are well versed with our product portfolio. What is unique about the Wärtsilä portfolio is the fact that we offer to you the latest suite or the latest version of the software which is actually running on the physical simulator. That translates into the fact that it assists you in your training needs, it assists you and complements the fact that most of the academies and most of the educational institutions are considering the blended learning and also using alternate means for contact programs, which are the classroom instructions. The simulator is a live simulator as we speak. It is not a Kai package or a traditional package. As regards to the functionality of the simulator, it has, you can see that there's an egg disk screen out here. It fully functions like an egg disk. All the menus, all the tasks, all the buttons, everything is available to you. You have the autopilot or basically the engine control card on the left side. So using a single laptop or a single MacBook, iPad Pro, or a Windows-based machine or a desktop anywhere in the world, you can access the simulator. The advantage of this particular simulator is that when you access the simulator, it's a live experience. As Nicola had mentioned to you, the more than the technical requirements part of it, you are actually saving on a lot of administrative issues in terms of switching on a physical simulator, ensuring a power requirement, ensuring manpower who's there, who ensures that the building is readily available for it. The scalability of the simulator, wherein if from day to day, the requirements of an organization to use maybe 1 station or 4 station or 5 station, that gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility in your course planning. Because the physical simulator restricts the number of trainees that can actually access it. It also increases your geographical reach for the academies because the students need not be located or co-located according very close to the academy. The simulator by itself is not a replacement of the physical simulator, but actually it complements and augments your present simulator in carrying your training to a limited extent, and it depends on how the instructors or the academies actually adapt to it. This is the same photograph. Basically, it's the same Navigational Trainer Pro software. Now, when you look at the same screen has been changed over to a radar display. So you see that the single PC, which is actually being used by you, it swift changes from EGDIS display to the radar display. So it gives you the dual functionality mode. Wärtsilä is also working on extending this particular display into 2 different displays, wherein you get the feasibility of actually looking at the EGDIS on one screen and the radar on the other screen. All the functionalities of AIS, all the functionalities of your various nav aids like GPS, your eco sounder are also available, including the true wind and the relative wind. Now, as we shift to the engine room simulator, that is the tech sim part of it, which is the strength of Wärtsilä, our engine room simulator covers all the engine and the ship models which are available in our physical suite. So whatever engine models and ship models are available in our physical simulator, the same are made available to you through the cloud. You get the same walkthrough, you get the same panel view, you get the same functionality, what is available. So all the instructor needs to do is actually go into the simulator, prepare his exercise, and actually assign those exercises to the various students. You are not bounded by the fact that an instructor has to give the same exercise to all the students. You can give multiple exercises to multiple people, and you can have a different ship model and a different engine model for every student. It could be led by the e-tutor, which is actually a walkthrough, or it could be a instructor-based learning. The only part is that you can also have log files which are generated automatically at the end of the exercise. So the moment you log off the simulator, what happens is these log files are available to you. The instructor station is available to you 24/7. We give it as a complimentary thing. So you get to lay back your session, you get to actually prepare your exercise, and other instructors can use those exercises. In regards to security, which is a key feature here, what we have to, what Wärtsilä would like to inform you that your simulator connectivity from your existing machine to the simulator is on a secure link. That means is a physical connection kind of a thing which is done, and it is protected by a secure user ID and a password. It cannot happen that 2 instances of the same simulator are running on different virtual machines. Secondly, the exercises that you have chosen, it resides in your particular cloud. The cloud is not shared. That means if an academy or an instructor or a training school has subscribed to a cloud, the cloud is exclusive to you for the whole contractual duration. This is, we have given you a small display how a typical panel looks like. This is the engine control panel on one of the ships. And you can see the look and feel of it is exactly like how you stand in front of it. You can use your mouse and you can play around with various functionalities of the various modules which are available, and they actually work. With this, we have actually finished our presentation from our side, and we would be glad to take on any questions. Me and Nicola are always available. We would leave our email IDs with you. And in case you would want to reach back to us and do a separate kind of a demonstration or a hands-on experience on our simulators, we would be glad to take it forward. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kiran, and thanks again for all our speakers. We really appreciate the time granted to take part in this webinar and in this important discussions. Now we move on to if any of the participants has any question just to drop for the speakers, just let us know, open the video and wave, and we can give you the time just to drop the question that you need. So let me start by Hello?
We couldn't hear the question.
Yeah, my question is starting with to Dr. Cleopatra about the legal perspectives and shortages of international local regulations of e-learning.
Ask him to repeat it again. The shortage.
Yeah. Can you repeat the question, please?
Again.
Yes. What about the legal perspectives and shortages of international local regulations of e-learning?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Well, e-learning is e-learning, right? So what you have is learning at a distance, as against traditional learning where it is in class. But I imagine, irrespective of any form of learning, regulations must, there must be the relevant regulations to buttress either of those two forms of learning. Certainly classroom learning and e-learning all by itself, all alone, or without classroom-based learning requires additional skills and expertise and tools to be made available that probably for traditional classroom teaching, that the sort of tools could be different, the sort of fixed tools and the standard processes of teaching face-to-face. But I think if we want to ensure the quality, and at the end of the day, learning is learning, but the quality of the learning experience with respect to e-learning or online learning, certainly a lot more additional tools and a lot more attention to ensure that the quality of the outcomes, if we're delivering, let's say, a master's program, or you're delivering a postgraduate program, which doesn't necessarily need to a master's, but may lead to a diploma program, or if you're only doing a certificate program, depending on the program that is intended. Of course, we have to ensure, or it must be ensured, that the quality of the outcomes and the tools that are made available, and again, depending on where the students are coming from, many of our students today, if we take Seafarers as the usual group of students that we are thinking about today, Seafarers today are coming from the developing world. Many of them don't have the access to the internet-based solutions that we're talking about today. And they are the ones, unless of course we have a new brand group of seafarers that are going to come from the developed world, because you now have technology on board, or you can be directing a ship or working from shore in terms of the technology. We expect that shipping will, based on what has been said by Setena and by Watsila, based on what has been said by Watsila, where they are actually looking at futuristic, and not so futuristic after all, because we've seen already examples of technology ships that don't require to have captains on board, but again the sort of long-term or more solid implementation of that is yet a long way to come. But I would say that if the seafarers of this world are going to continue to come from the developing world, which is where they're coming from today, and we have to then probably, hopefully, with the new technology where you can have most of the control of the ship based ashore, then of course we can see a return of seafarers coming from the developed world, and most of the time, of course, working ashore if that if that would happen. But I would imagine then we have to reprofile our educational offerings, very, very much so, in order to ensure that shipping, don't forget, and that's where we can't make mistakes. Shipping today is responsible for more than 80% of world trade. And therefore, for shipping to be safe and environmentally, because that's the next big issue, environmentally friendly, We have to have super well-educated, seafarers today. And unless we change the profile, or when that profile for seafarers changes, I would see us continuing a business as usual for a long time to come in the future. COVID, of course, will bring in, because of COVID, we will also see hopefully an uptake in new forms of technology, new ways in which seafarers, considering how impacted, there's nobody who's been more impacted by COVID-19 than our seafarers of this world. More than 300,000 of them will have been stuck. Nowadays, I think the number is about a little less than 300,000 are still stuck and not been able to repatriate and return home. So, until we have all of these today, now we have new challenges, and probably COVID is making us think differently. But even if that were to help advance the technological developments for ships, I don't think that world trade will have to depend for a long time to come on the seafarers of today. And they are coming from the developing world. So this is a consideration we must never forget.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cleopatra. And also, I would like to send greetings to Dr. Arif Fakhri, Associate Professor at World Maritime University. We have a question from Mr. Ibrahim Al-Ayan.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Ibrahim Al-Ayan from Emitech, Al-Balqa University. My question to Dr. Cleopatra and Professor Ahmed Yusuf. My question is, why until now no upgrade for the module courses, especially for the engineering-wise COCs, operational level and management level, especially for the AI and IoT and autonomous ship? This is my question. Until now, no upgraded for the module courses. We asked many times by the email for that. And I think if we apply this upgrade and implementation for this field, it will be fast and make it the fast behavior to improve the skills for the academic staff and the students. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So the question is for Dr. Cleopatra and Dr. Ahmed Yusuf.
Yes, right.
Dr. Arif, would you like to take this answer? I don't know if...
Okay. So I think we should. Dr. Dumbia Henry was just saying that the question could be taken up by the gentleman from
the Arab Academy. Yeah, I think he's
Dr. Ahmed Yusuf.
Yes, I don't know if he's still on.
I don't know also.
Yeah.
Let me ask the professor who is dealing with MET to answer.
Hello, my name is Inga, and nice to meet all of you. So the question is dealing with, as I understood, please correct me if I didn't understand properly. The question is regarding competencies, certificate of competence of seafarers and people working remotely on ashore. Am I right?
Can he just to confirm? Can he confirm, Professor
Ibrahim Al-Ayan, Mr.
Ibrahim Al-Ayan? Can you confirm the question, whether the question you've asked is understood? Can you repeat your question then?
Yeah.
Ibrahim, Mr. Al-Ayan.
Yes, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Ayan, are you hearing us?
Yes. I tried to make it unmute, but the controller.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you read it now?
Yeah. My question is, until now, no upgrade for the function 4 and function 2 in the module courses for the engineering wise at the COCs for the operational level and the management level. I am instructor for this field. So I show my problem facing in the classes already. Regarding to the AIs and IoT and programming especially, until now, no especially skills included in the outcomes for this module courses. And I think if the IMO or STCW added these topics and outcomes for this module courses, it will make fast improvement and implementations for provide our academic staff and students of the high skills and make them to make synchronized with the marine industry requirement. My question, why until now no upgrade? We talking about AI and IoT since 10 years. This generation started. Why until now no upgrade? Thank you.
Can you answer that?
No, actually, I'm quite not sure if I can answer the question why there are no upgrades in model courses regarding skills and competencies. But in my understanding, you can see that industry is changing so quickly and the changes are accelerating. And you imagine now we have one mode in shipping by operating ships and operating on board and ashore communication. But in several years, you can imagine how shipping industry will change with automation of ships. So actually, this is not a question for me, why there is no upgrade. But in my understanding, it's quite challenging to upgrade competencies when we don't have clear picture what kind of skills will be needed for seafarers and for people ashore. So the understanding is that people ashore will operate some kind of ships which are at sea. So, but what kind of competencies will be needed for those people and how the employment market will change? How many management staff will we need on board and operational staff on shore? So many issues have to be considered in order to take several decisions which can be applied in maritime education and training institutions. So I'm not in charge in upgrading competencies, but I see that trend in shipping industry and recent changes, and those changes are very much related to the competencies and skills of future people who will be employed in shipping industry at sea and as well on board. So, in my opinion, a lot of projects are going on, researchers are working on it, and in addition, in my understanding, some kind of legal instruments have to be prepared to be ready for this changing situation. And as soon as those legal instruments will be prepared, in my opinion, very quickly those upgrades will come in force. But otherwise, sometimes probably maritime education and training institutions can take some kind of proactive approach and foresee what kind of skills will be needed and to maybe some kind make effect to those people or organizations who are in charge of upgrading those instruments. So that can be my response to this question.
I probably can also add that don't forget that IMO has been discussing the what amendments are required for the STCW convention, and even and unfortunately the meeting that was scheduled for earlier in February this year, I think February, March, that was to be held by the IMO. That whole these meetings have now been postponed, and I know that at least they were supposedly going to be dealing with, and there's a range of issues that IMO has to, because the IMO is the international regulator. So because shipping is a global industry, and you need global and common standards for it that applies to everyone, it is really important that these global standards are actually set by the IMO. And I know that the work that's ongoing in terms of this subcommittee on the human element, that there is a number of issues under discussion, but all of this, of course, now has been suspended in light of COVID. And I think it would be important to follow what these developments. I am not quite sure that they are specifically addressing the issue you raised, but I am sure that it is for the IMO itself to address all of those issues, because shipping requires international regulations, international standards, and the implementation of these in a uniform way, and implementation and interpretation of these in a uniform way. So I think it will be up to IMO to, we'll have to see now how much of these issues will be taken forward, and when will it be possible for IMO to resume. Don't forget, IMO has not been able to resume meetings since the end of February. And up till now, it's not yet anticipated. I know they're working on it. When any of these, let's say, even by distance learning, IMO has not had yet, because of the number of languages that are required, it's not yet been able to move forward with meetings by distance learning. So if IMO can move forward with meetings by distance learning, can you only imagine how encumbered, I mean, everything is mounting up, of course, and the items on the agenda will be having a long list of things that have to be done, particularly as COVID-19 impacted so much seafarers around the world. I think the IMO has a big piece of task before it. So probably let's be patient, but I could understand the questions that were coming from, that were put forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Ahmed, I don't know if you hear the question, because also you were, the question was asked for you. Dr. Ahmed? Yeah.
Because the host is not allowing me to unmute. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Have you heard the question from Mr. Ibrahim?
No.
Yeah. Can you please repeat, Mr. Ibrahim, the question?
Mr. Ibrahim, would you kindly repeat the question, please?
يعطيك العافية بروفيسور.
اهلا بيك. اهلا وسهلا.
سؤالي كان كالتالي، بالنسبة للموديول كورسز الخاص بالاوبريشنال ليفل والمانجمنت ليفل، خصوصا بالفانكشن رقم 2 اللي بيختص اللي هي الكهرباء والالكترونيكس والتكنولوجيا الى اخره. لغاية اللحظة ما في اي ابجريد بيتحدث عن الاي او تي او الاي اي بما يخص هذا الفانكشن بالذات. باعتقادي انه الليكس اللي صار والتاخر في عمليه الابجريد للموديول كورسز بما يخص الاوتكمز الخاصه بالفانكشن رقم 2 ممكن انها يعني لو صار في عندي عمليات تحديث سريعه، ممكن انه هي عمليات التحديث تزيد السكيلز لدى الطاقم الاكاديمي وحتى الطلاب والمتدربين، من اجل انهم يرفعوا السكيلز ويطبقوا الاي ليرنينج بشكل اسهل وبشكل ابسط. يعني الفكره تبعتي انه انا بدل ما اكون متلقي للتكنولوجيا، اخلي الناس اللي عندي، الناس المتدربين او الطلاب، يكونوا جزء من عمليه صناعه التكنولوجيا البحريه في هذا المجال. سؤالي ليش لغايه يعني كونك بروفيسور استاذنا ومطلع بشكل اوسع منا، لماذا لغايه اللحظه لم يتم اي عمليات تحديث على الموديول كورسز لاجل هذه الغايات، على الرغم من انها تكنولوجيا بلشت الثوره تبعتها من قبل 10 سنين تقريبا حسب البرزنتيشن اللي حضرتك اوردته. شكرا لك.
شكرا. Thank you, Engineer Ibrahim. Actually, Mr. Ibrahim, question was totally focused on the electronics and the machinery training, has not been influenced by the IoT so far. And I totally agree with that. And I think we have a much more global problem than that, because incorporating the technology and the internet applications in the applications in the maritime education and training has not been adopted so far properly. So far, we have some applications that used kind of a virtual labs, and you can do just this virtually. You can assemble circuits and these things, but usually these applications had been made to the engineering schools and had not been made just tailored for the maritime. That's why maybe I was talking about that we need to take much more faster steps forwards in order to transform the whole process, and in order to incorporate the ICT much more than what we are doing now in every single aspect. Definitely you have a maritime background, an engineering background. That's why your question had been addressed to this sector. But from myself, I'm a former master mariner, so I have a marine background, and I do have many questions similar to you, and we have done many researches here in the Academy regarding developing the process with the aid of the technology enhanced learning, and transforming some of the labs into a virtual learning environment in order to facilitate such applications. We have done many researches in this aspect, but unfortunately, so far, this applications has not been adopted yet.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, also for your question. We are reaching to the end of the webinar. If any participant has one final question, please don't hesitate just to drop it now. Yeah, we have a question from Captain Isa. Hello, Captain. Please feel free just to drop your question. Hello, Captain.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for all the speeches. My question was actually with regarding the examination and for the evaluating of the student skills. Probably might be to Dr. Cleopatra and to Professor Ahmed, and to even Nicola from Wartsela, and even Captain Tamim, with regarding the evaluating of the student on e-learning training. Are we satisfied from the examinations? Are we satisfied from the e-learning tests, especially on the simulator sites, on the training academies in general, to evaluate really the student has, we are satisfied from the skills they are gaining from the online training or in e-learning training? That's my question was. Anyone can start. So no one.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
So who would like to start? Yeah, Dr. Ahmed, would you like to start with the answering?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And regarding the simulators, the simulators is not covering everything needed for the seafarer so far. But when I do an assessment on the simulator, yes, it do satisfy, and it do achieve the learning objectives of the course. But as we know that the simulators basically are for the bridge operations, officer of the watch, and for cargo handling, and maybe some other simulators are extended to support the training for the communications. But when we talk about some skills like related to the safety, related to the deck work, the seamanship, related to some aspects in the engine room, and related to some tasks in the bridge, those topics has not been covered yet by simulators. And that's the point that I was trying to raise here, that simulators are covering certain aspects from the MAT process, but it's not covering the whole aspects. The rest of the aspects needs some significant contribution from the maritime institutes in order to achieve a kind of a training tool to support that training. So regarding the first part of my answer is simulators. Yes, the topics covered by simulators. Yes, the simulators are achieving the learning objectives, and it's a very good tool for assessments, especially that it provides a hands-on training. But if we are talking about the whole training process from a much more holistic way, no, simulators are not covering many other aspects, as I have mentioned earlier.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Engineer Nicola, do you have also, please feel free just to answer the question.
All right, so first of all, thank you for the question, and thank you to Professor Youssef for the quite comprehensive answer. I would go on. I would probably complement what Professor Youssef is stating. I myself have been an instructor in a well-regarded maritime institute in the Central Europe. And I do hear the concerns of Captain Hassan, I believe. I do hear it, I do understand it. I have lived those concerns and those difficulties myself in first person. Now I'm on the other side. I'm on the side of the people who try to provide a solution. And I would say that there are, I can only speak on behalf of Barcelona on our products. There are very valid tools that come with our simulator products that enable a proper and a comprehensive assessment. Now, the real challenge, I would say, is more from a trainer or an instructor point of view, is to have the ability to shape properly the assessment to test the competencies. That's actually a real hard skill, I must say. It is challenging. It is difficult to achieve, and sometimes it presents side difficulties in the process. Or how is an instructor supposed to test if a student has that skill or that knowledge? It requires a lot of extensive groundwork from instructors and teachers themselves. To also continue on the Mr. Youssef statement, I would say that yes, simulators are not completely replacing reality, hands-on reality experience and training. But there are solutions that nowadays which we are also working and we offer, or we're going to offer very shortly. We're talking about AR and VR solutions, which will help bridging this gap between reality and the digital world. Is it going to be completely just like real life experience? We will get there. I think that technology has all the power and all the ability to get to that point. And AR and VR are the first step toward that goal. Thank you for the time and the opportunity.
And thanks for your question, Captain Isa. We have come to the end of the webinar. I really appreciate all the time granted from all the participants. A big thanks for our speakers, Dr. Cleopatra Dompia Henry, Dr. Ahmed Youssef, Professor Mahad Saeed Bawain, Engineer Maan Mustafa Amin Massad, Dr. Eliana Cristodolo Varuzzi, Captain Tamim Al-Imam, Engineer Nicola Della, and Mr. Kiran Kumar. Thanks again, and hopefully, and I'm really sorry because we extended the time of the webinar because of the importance of the presentations and the discussions being presented. Thanks again, and I'm really looking forward just to meet all of you with our upcoming webinars, which we will keep you updated. Thanks, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.